So, Anupriya, I think this is a very special interview because we actually had arranged to do a video interview earlier, but thanks to the bad network and the everything going wrong at that time, we had to do a telephonic at the end. But chalo, dera hai durust hai. So it's good to kind of have you on Amne Samne on a video chat for Criminal Justice Season 2, which is set to stream on Christmas Eve. How are you feeling about returning back as Nikhat in the series?
Very excited. I have had a great time shooting for both the seasons. Season one was such a success, and Nikhat as a character was, received so beautifully thanks to the audiences. They gave me so much love for months on end.
Hmm.
So I'm really hoping that second season we keep up to the expectations and enthrall them further and entertain them fully. And I think this time we've come with a very important story also because the actual crux of the story and topic in discussion is extremely important. It's very relevant, and not much has been talked about the issue in the entertainment space. So I'm also very excited to know what the audiences feel after watching the season.
Absolutely. I think I find it very fascinating, especially to see that sort of camaraderie that Nikhat shares with Madhav. Like in the first series, we saw them form this unlikely friendship. You never expected them to sort of become, good friends. Or wo jo साझेदारी थी उनकी, it was very natural and um, very heartwarming to see, actually. So, how much of that
Right.
camaraderie will be translated into the second series as well?
I hope we've graduated even further because I think now in this season, Madhav and Nikhat's camaraderie has become more evolved. It's become, much more mature in some sense. They
Hmm.
understand each other better. There are lesser surprises, though they still remain very unlikely partners because their way of conducting themselves is so diverse from one another. But it's very different. But still, there is very deep-rooted respect for each other as well at the same point in time, and
Hmm.
they both complement each other completely. That's what I love about their chemistry and their partnership. Um, and It's been so amazing to just work with Pankaj sir through both the seasons. I think he's been my biggest takeaway, even though the team has been wonderful. The storyline for both the season has been quite interesting, and Nikhat's character has been very defined in both the seasons per se. But still, my biggest takeaway was working with Pankaj sir still
Hmm.
because he's such an awesome co-star and such an amazing human being. You know,
Yeah.
it's amazing around him.
Absolutely. And I think for you as well, Anupriya, like I think like you mentioned as well at the beginning of when I asked you about Criminal Justice Season 2, I think perhaps this time it's a bit, does it seem a bit more close to home because it seems to tackle more issues which are more relevant to us. I mean, going by the trailer, the fact that um the accused this time is actually a female counterpart this time. How much more like relatable was it to kind of do this season in comparison to the first one?
Um, so obviously, the issue that we are talking about, which I can't disclose just yet, is far more potent, as I said.
Hmm.
As you also rightly pointed out, being a woman, I can relate to it much more
Yeah.
and understand it much better. And that's why I think Nikhat as a character is far more important to the case from that perspective of being a woman because she's able to understand Anu's character and connect with her at a human level.
Hmm.
Um, and you also would see some part of Nikhat's personal life. So
Hmm.
you understand that where she's coming from, what has been her background, and those experiences in her life also play a huge part in her figuring out a path to solve this case. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. That whole
Dynamic.
combination of
Hmm.
her dealing with her personal issues while bringing on an instinct that she has gotten because of her life experiences and then functioning and basically trying to figure out this case and crack it at the end is
Yeah.
quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, being a woman and that too, I am pretty opinionated as a person. So These issues my heart. And I'm really hoping that the audiences would take much more than just entertainment home,
Yes.
it would give them food for thought, and it would touch them in a way that they are able to either implement certain things in their own lives, or at least of those people who, around them, who probably unfortunately facing similar issues,
Hmm.
if at all.
Sure, definitely. And I think it definitely looks, I feel like it definitely looks a lot more intense as well, in comparison to the first series as well. But I think, Anupriya, when you're playing a lawyer, what would you say is your reference point? I mean, in Bollywood, we have such interesting characters, lawyer characters. Like, I think the first person that I think comes to my mind, when I think of lawyer, has to be Amitabh Bachchan from Pink. I think that's always my instinctive, like, sort of reaction. But when you're portraying a lawyer on screen, what would you say is often the reference point for you?
Um, I don't think that I had a particular reference point to play Nikhat. Maybe of all that we perceived while growing up, through what we've seen on camera as well as in real life. Because
Mm,
um, I unfortunately, had dealt with lawyers in the Indian courts very early in my life because of my business that I used to
mm,
help my father. So I had to meet a lot of lawyers during that time. Not female lawyers necessarily, but lawyers.
mm.
And through these years, I've had few interactions with some of them. My own landlord is a female lawyer, so
Okay.
it helps to kind of understand their body language, how
Right.
they are, how they talk, their lingo, and the way, like being a lawyer, that sort of Dalil wala system comes in everywhere. Even when they're talking normally, it's very easy for them to slip into that whole argumentative space.
Yeah.
Uh, Even if politely, everything becomes quite a debate, which is quite interesting. And
Mm.
they are practical in their viewpoints about everything in life. I think that's what the legal system and dealing with law on a day-to-day basis does to them. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you bring this up because for Nikhat in the second season, I had referred to many female lawyers.
Okay.
I'd spoken to them because I wanted to understand that as a female lawyer, when you're accused, when your client is a female, do you get a little biased? Do you start
Yeah.
diving more into the lives? Like as a woman, whenever I see some woman being targeted for some wrongdoing, I immediately start thinking about their life circumstances. What must be the reason? So somewhere I'm already giving them a benefit of doubt.
Mm.
Being a woman, I wanted to know that as lawyers, does that happen to them? Do they become more emotional? Are they able to keep a very practical standpoint? Does as a female lawyer, does the the whole idea of whether their client is guilty or innocent in reality matter to them as much? Do they
Mm.
get judgmental, if at all?
Sure.
And how personally involved are they? And with the outcome, if it is not really meeting their uh, in our pursuits, does it bother them? It does it stay with them for a long time? Lots of things.
Right.
And also to understand how female lawyers today are treated in the legal system. Is there a bias towards them or
Mm.
against them, or do they face problems? And even the case that they're dealing with, as I said, we haven't seen much of that being played out in the Indian entertainment system. I wanted to understand that whether what kind of laws are available, or what kind of support system is available for women
Mm.
accused. You would, just the season two, you would also get to see a lot of uh, female prisons, which you
Sure.
haven't really seen so much
Yeah.
in our
No.
system yet, in our entertainment space yet,
Yeah.
and that would
Absolutely.
be interesting to watch. And they have shown it in quite a lot of detail as much as possible. So it's a very interesting season with a very potent and strong storyline.
Hmm.
And I really hope it will touch everyone's heart.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because I think the last film, I think, where we had a female prison, I think, if I'm wrong, do correct me, but I think it probably was Ek Hasina Thi, the one with Urmila Matondkar and Saif Ali Khan, and that was only for a significant part as well. But the fact that you have a series dedicated to the criminal justice system and what happens to women accused. And I think that is exactly why it looks very fascinating. And I think a lot of people will be curious and very intrigued to see what will happen. But I think Anupriya, I think it's been quite an interesting year for you. I feel like the crime genre has been very specific for you this year because you've had like Asur, you've had
Funny,
Ashka.
now that you're mentioning it, I'm realizing that. Actually, I didn't realize it up until now, until you mentioned it to me. True, very true.
Like literally, you had
I'm
Asur, you
so
had
surprised.
Ashram, and you now have criminal justice. So I'm obviously guessing this wasn't a conscious decision on your part to just do back to back
Conscious
like
effort.
crime genre.
It wasn't a conscious decision by any measure. Also, I mean, I didn't realize it that almost all three of them are thrillers.
Yeah.
So I chose all three of these stories for various different reasons. And I'm glad that I did because I've had the greatest time shooting for each one of them.
Yeah, and do you know what? This is a very interesting part as well. Is the fact that OTT platforms have been such a huge lifeline for us
Mhm.
throughout 2020 because of the pandemic. And had it not been for the OTT platforms, I mean, what do you think would have happened to actors? I mean, I know it's very difficult to imagine because it's a hypothetical kind of question, but I mean, what do you think would have been the case? I mean, do you think it would have just been a very dark phase for actors in general had we not have had the OTT? How do you think it would have been different?
I mean, I don't think it would have been any different that way because whether you were an OTT actor or otherwise, most of us were not working during the lockdown.
Hmm.
But in general, OTT has given a new lifeline to all artists, all freelancers of different kinds in this field of art, be it actors, directors, writers, the works.
Hmm.
And everyone is taking second lease of life in terms of experimenting, in terms of expressing themselves and trying different content and collaborating with different teams and different
Yeah.
sensibilities all the time. So everyone is exploding and there is so much work happening at this point in time. So yeah, that it's a very prolific time, and I for one, I'm more interested in doing even more variety of roles in the next coming year to try different genres like
Hmm.
comedy and something extremely dark, psychotic. Or I want to do that. Also play a rural character or a period drama again. Those are the things that fascinate me. So
Yeah.
my wish list is huge. And as an actor too, I think thanks to the OTT space, because I've got to collaborate with so many different people in the recent past, I've learned a lot. And also the film space. For me, I feel both of them were complementing one another, whether be it films like Tigers in the Hair, Padmavat or War, or the various series that have come out of the OTT.
Hmm.
They've all kind of happened side by side in some sense,
Yeah.
and I have like almost dabbled between the two mediums. So it's been quite interesting how you put yourself on a film set and then how you come back into an OTT, show. Which and secondly, for criminal justice, this is the first time I'm reprising my role.
Yeah.
Um, I'm revisiting the same character after a period
Yeah.
of 1.5 years,
That's
and
true.
that was quite interesting because that's something that I used to wonder earlier. I
Yeah.
think that was one thing that used to make me jealous of TV actors, thinking that they get the same character for a year or two and maybe more, and wonder how do they grow with the character? Does it become stale for them? Do they discover new things along the way? Because that's what happens in theater per se, in front
Yeah.
of a live audience. Uh,
No, true.
so that I'm getting to do here, which is quite interesting. I revisited the first season. Ivan had to remember the body language again.
Hmm.
What were the choices you had made then, and how you want to make it different this time, and how you want to take the character further. So
Hmm.
all those choices had to be made on a moment-to-moment basis,
Hmm.
and that was quite because somewhere the slate is already written, and then
Yes,
you have built on,
exactly.
from like over and above that.
Hmm.
So
Exactly. I think it's a balance as well, isn't it? Because you have to be consistent, but yet sort of adhering to what the character would go through, I guess, as well as a person. So I guess it's a very fine balance you have to have between the two
true,
aspects, isn't it?
true, absolutely. Like in Criminal Justice season 2, or rather behind closed doors, the second installment. Um, so this, as I said, there were many times my okay, this we've already disclosed that my client Anuchandra doesn't talk. She
Yeah.
just doesn't. And me and Madhav sir, we both don't have any clue of what we are doing, what we are fighting against. We are
Mm,
quite directionless at times. We are purely working on instincts, and that instinct mostly comes from Nikhat because she is the woman and in the partnership, and she is able to have a certain insight into the case, which out of her personal
mm,
experience, it just comes to her, and then they are just basically digging on that without really having full clarity, you know.
mm,
So there are many times when, as a character, one was irritated, frustrated,
mm.
but you had to maintain that very fine line during scenes wherein it I mean, Nikhat would appear practical, yet empathetic, but
Mm.
not judgmental and
Right.
not like frustrated to the core of
Yeah.
being termed as a bad professional. So it had to all come together. So
Mm.
that kind of an adjustment or, keeping the moral compass and your practicality on point
Yeah.
was quite interesting, scene versus scene, you know.
Mm.
So that I found both challenging and interesting in the second installment for me.
And another thing that I've noticed, Anupriya, actually, just thinking about the some of the works that you've done, including the the mainstream films that you've done, the Bollywood ones, the big blockbusters that you've done, some of them, especially like Padmavat, your character in Tiger Zinda Hai as well, and obviously now Criminal Justice, there seems to be an undertone about sort of women fighting back against like this sort of misogyny that occurs in our society, and sort of fighting back against wrongdoings, so to speak, as well. Again, has that been something that's always at the back of your mind when you're choosing projects? Because obviously in Padmavat you had the Johar sequence, you had, we all know what happened in that, and then Tigers in Dahe, you had that whole sequence of Tera Noor where the women are fighting back, the extremists, and now obviously in criminal justice as well, which obviously seems to tackle a lot of other social issues too. So has it been a conscious decision on your part to kind of look out for these aspects when choosing projects?
Um, I think yes, because I think instinctively I'm more drawn to subjects where women are going through a journey
Hmm.
and are, as you said, fighting the norms, fighting patriarchy, fighting uh, you know the various biases that they are doled out on an everyday basis, where they're making a transition into being more powerful or more in control,
Hmm.
or rather using women as human beings. I feel are much more capable in so many aspects, whether be it multitasking, whether be it their internal strength to deal with trauma, or they are able to deal with stress in a much better way. They are able
Hmm.
to uh, rise up to the occasion, so to say,
Yeah.
whenever in drastic need, much better than men I've seen in personal life also. So
Yeah.
I think there at the somewhere subconsciously there's always this want to bring out those characters and those characteristics out on screen also.
Hmm.
So to depict women where you can be vulnerable, you can be on a losing end, or you can have circumstances built up against you.
Hmm.
But I would believe a woman would fight back, would try to make a path for herself
Yeah.
or for people around, and take care of things, but while being very aware and proud of her limitations also, but
Hmm.
yet making a pathway for herself. So probably somewhere I like to obviously play strong characters, but at the same point in time, as an actor, I'm very open to playing vulnerable characters,
Hmm.
characters who like probably a battered woman or something. I'm extremely interested in depicting that kind of a zone also. But at the same point in time, where there is some redemption happening, where even if not exactly for the character that I'm playing, in the
Hmm.
story, there has to be, as long as as long as the
Attention.
the plight of women or is not celebrated
Hmm.
in the story complete, or uh, or you don't objectify them. I'm happy to play any character. I just don't like the space where women are ridiculed as caricatures, or
Yeah.
are objectified, or you're made to just look as eye candies.
Hmm.
Those are demeaning roles, I think,
Yeah, definitely.
because they
And I,
give out the wrong impression. Jump down to women. I mean, it's okay to be, I'm happy to play a dumb woman per se, but
hmm.
the story should not be showing women as dumb. Understand?
Yes, absolutely. That should not be their main role and that main focus point. Yeah.
I can play a character of any kind because there are all kinds of us. But
Hmm.
it should not give away an impression that, oh, women are just happy to sit in cars and they're just there to wear fancy clothes and they like money. And those are ridiculous,
Yeah,
um, you
it's
know,
true. Actually, do you know what?
interpretation.
And I think I was gonna say, like, 2020 has been such an important year as well in bringing female stories to the forefront. I mean, whether it's on the big screen through a story like Chapak, or we've had Bulbul as well. We've had there's a Z5 show called Jurels, which was fantastic as well. So we've had a lot of contents in 2020 bring out stories of, again, which is slightly empowering but also told in a very thought-provoking manner. How important is it for such stories to evolve, do you think, as well?
Very important,
Hmm.
extremely important, because I think cinema and entertainment have a huge way of influencing people. And if you use it correctly, it can be a huge medium to bring about some necessary change,
Hmm.
right? Um, Within all sorts of households. And when you want to fight patriarchy, it is not just the women who need to come and stand up together, it's also the men who need to understand as to what is going wrong and how the women are being put, on the losing end, or rather, they have so much up against them to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So that kind of you know change can only come when your cinema supports it,
Hmm.
when it brings up characters of women who are strong, who are willing to risk it all and
Yeah.
follow their dreams, and who are not simply, I mean, I think still we are fighting with the norm that, oh, if you're a working woman, then probably your priorities are wrong,
Yeah.
and if you're not able to pay as much attention at home, then it's wrong on your part as a mother, as a caregiver, as a home breeder, because you're supposed to be all there and taking care of it. It's
Hmm.
the woman's responsibility. I mean, those sort of um, completely outdated ideas are still
Yeah.
out there, to find. Simply, I mean, the women need to be taking care of themselves when they walk out, as to how they are projecting themselves, what are they wearing, how are they talking to people. This will be changing the sensibilities and the psyche of men around, to not stop looking at women as mere objects. So
Yeah.
obviously, these different stories needs to start coming out, and they need to start being spoken about, so that people start looking, or rather men and the society starts looking at women as so much more that they are,
Hmm. Hmm.
rather than flesh and
Yeah, no,
you
absolutely.
know
No, no, no. I totally get that as well. And I think it's great as well that we're seeing that transition happening in cinema. And I think again, it's high time. What would you say has been the greatest learning for you as a person and as an artist in 2020? Because like I said, it's been, I mean, catastrophic to say the least, you know. It's been very, very game changing, I think, in for good or for bad. So what would you say has been the greatest learning for you throughout this year?
mm, couple of them, honestly. One was just the appreciation of privilege per se. you know we
Yeah.
spend so much time wanting more, thinking that, oh, I don't have this and I don't have that, and I'm struggling with this and that, and you realize that these are first world problems. You know, If you have, as long as you have food a table, a roof over your head, and you're able to enjoy a cup of coffee alone or with family,
Yeah.
or watch content on OTT or pick up a book and read it. I mean, these are true privileges in this kind of a time. And when
Mm.
I saw so many people, and all of us saw so many people in terms of the migrant workers and people who were really, hand to mouth situation, and who did not have, means to really just find food
Mm.
or a place to. That was the time I was feeling responsible, was feeling even wrong about being in the comfort of my house,
Oh.
and finally coming to the point of truly appreciating the privilege and realizing that no, everything is great.
Mm.
I mean, if you can't enjoy what God has given you, then there is no point of you having it. Like that's the biggest, you know, uh,
Truth.
I
There
mean,
is. Yeah.
thing if that's the case. And also health became so important all through this year. Just the fact that my parents have been healthy throughout the year, touch wood, just gives me happiness, and I can't stop thanking, you know, my luck and God for that. So those sort of those sort sort of things that you take for granted generally all the time. And
Mm.
I started painting and reading, listening to music like constantly. I started doing some meditation. I started doing some master classes and trying to increase my skill set in terms of voice modulation. Also, it was quite productive this whole year in some sense.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere this earth, I mean the earth and us needed that pause in our lives to reassess our lives, and our environment needed it to breathe and to be given a break for a change. So,
Yeah.
like,
Absolutely.
it was a very difficult year. It was much needed too, and it would be quite pointless if we don't take these learnings forward, and if we don't be thankful for what we got, and if we survived it, and just being thankful for being able to survive such a year
No.
is
Absolutely.
amazing.
And I think also the fact that I mean I kind of ask, especially now of recent, the sort of recent interviews that I've been doing, especially throughout this month, I've been asking a lot of artists about what their goals and ambitions are, in the near future. But I kind of realized that we can't really plan anything or sort of have anything prepared anymore, because whatever happens, it always goes pear shaped.
I disagree. Of course, you can plan. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you would be able to complete your plans like month after month on some set deadline.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is that you do hope for things to happen. You hope for things to move on in a certain way, and when they don't, you figure another way out. That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying. That if you still able to, when everything can fall flat on your face, but you can still live through it. It's such a beautiful, you know, like it's a blessing
Yeah.
in that case. I'm sure, like, I have planned a lot for this coming year. I want to travel much more. I want to keep learning how to sing. I want to learn more dance forms. And I surely want to do some amazing work in terms of various kind of, characters and roles like comedy and dark characters, as I said, or rural characters. And I want to do action oriented films later to, when I
Okay.
get trained for it. So that's one thing that I want to train in. So there are lots of things on my mind, and of course, I would want to pursue them. I want
Hmm.
to travel. Like really, I have not been traveling so much in the recent years, and I hope as soon as things become more, normalized, I would want to start traveling a little more, at least during breaks. So
Hmm.
plan we should do it, but be ready with the contingency.
Absolutely. No, very well said. Very, very well said, actually. So, I mean, speaking of future projects, I mean, what else can we look forward to post Criminal Justice Season 2?
There is this movie that I did with Devendra Sharma in the lead. I'm
Wow.
opposite it. It's called Meri Desh Ki Dharti, and I'm playing a rural character there. So that probably will come out maybe in early 2021,
Okay.
probably. And Asur 2 is going to go on floors, Ashram 2 is going to go on floors early 2021. Then there are two shows which are one is actually slated to start in March,
Mm-hmm.
and one I've finished, which both of which I can't really talk about because they've not been announced yet.
Ooh.
So probably the one that I've just finished shooting for would also come out in February, March next year. Yeah.
Wow. Well, it looks like another busy period for you as well, Anupriya, and I can't wait to see more Anu
Just want to
content.
be on stage and traveling. These are the two wishes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're looking forward to seeing more Anupriya content on our screens. And I'm just super stoked to see you return on Criminal Justice season 2. I felt very engrossed and very engaged with the first one, and I think the second one is going to be just as impactful, if not more. So I just want to wish you all the very best for the series, and congratulations for a successful 2020 as well. And I can't wait to catch up with you in the new year.
Thank you, and I hope you have a lovely New Year. Have a
Thank
great time, and I hope 2021 is beautiful and very enthralling for you as well.
Oh, thank you so much, and I'm so glad that this video interview finally worked out without any interruptions. I was like, yes,
Finally,
finally,
finally.
finally.
Where there is a will, there is a way.
There is a
See?
way, absolutely. No, that's definitely a big lesson in itself. But Anupriya, thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. Thank you.
Talking to you as usual.
Lovely. Thank you, Anupriya. Bye.